Look, I got a free bobblehead at the screening of this movie. Hey Harry, do you think getting free stuff is cool? He totally agrees. What is up, everybody? Random Random Man here, bringing you my review for Tuner in one take. Now, the plot of this crime thriller film follows a talented piano tuner whose skills lead him to have an unexpected aptitude for cracking safes, turning his life upside down. Going into this movie, I was really looking forward to seeing it, as last year I saw a trailer for this film in front of another movie, and it looked like something that would be right up my interest, as it sounds very similar to 2017's Baby Driver, my favorite film from that year, as it follows another protagonist with a specific hearing condition and also a specific set of skills that make him talented and inadvertently going into a life of crime while also trying to do the right thing. It seemed like it was kind of like that base for a narrative, but just on a different level. So again, it had my interest, and this is also the narrative feature film debut of its director, Daniel Rohr. Previously, he is known to have made documentary films. Earlier this year, he did put out a film on artificial intelligence, and before this year, he won the Oscar for Best Documentary Feature for Navalny, about the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. That was a diligently put together documentary, totally deserved the Oscar win there, and now again, he is making his narrative feature film debut, and this film premiered at last year's Telluride Film Festival and screened at a bunch of other festivals where it got a bunch of good buzz. And today, I saw this thing at an early screening where you saw me get that free bobblehead that I showed off in the intro for this video. And this film doesn't open here in the US at least until this coming weekend in limited capacity, and then it goes wide the following weekend. So I was lucky enough to go out and see this thing and just see what all the fuss is about, while also letting you all know the good word or whatever word it is I have to go ahead and give you. So starting out with the cast and their performances, we have Leo Woodall as Nicky. Now, his character has a lot going with his head, literally, as he is a piano tuner. He's the titular tuner, as I've mentioned, who is very talented at what he does in tuning pianos, but he specifically has a condition with his hearing called hyperacusis. So he is super sensitive to noise everywhere. He has specific plugs in his ears that are not hearing aids, but they cancel out sound, and then he has bigger noise canceling headphones when he is outside as well. So that kind of gives him like a superpower of sorts. And then while he is at one job, he sees people trying to crack into a safe upstairs at where he is tuning a piano, and then inadvertently goes into this life of crime, but also out of necessity in the circumstance that he is in. I've never seen this actor in anything prior to this film, but I gotta say that this is quite a breakout turn from Woodall. He is wonderful in this movie. He is British, as was shown off in the intro with him and the main actress in this film, but he nails the New York City accent really well here, and there's a lot with his character to really make us identify with him, what with his hearing condition and also just what he is trying to do to make things right for himself in his life and pushing forward and everything despite going to this life of crime here. So yeah, the lead performance here is not just likable, but I think it is a star-making turn. Now, the guy on the bobblehead that I showed off earlier, by the way, the bobblehead is a real prop in the movie. It is two-time Academy Award winner Dustin Hoffman, who plays Harry. He is the owner of this piano tuning company, which Nicky works for, and he basically is under the apprenticeship of Harry. He does not have a lot to do, aside from being a big selling point of this movie, but he has a lot of quips. He's an older dude, so he has a lot of things to say about, being an older man and also in connection with his relationship with Nikki. I mean, he's a class act in many ways, as I would describe actors of his stature and just being a veteran performer for all these decades in film. So I think that he made for a great addition to this film, not just to sell us on what he is doing in terms of being a free prop that I was able to get as a take-home thing for the bobblehead. But in any sense, yeah, Hoffman, yeah, I really liked him here. Havana Rose Liu plays Ruthie. She plays a student of music playing the piano, actually. Nikki comes over to her school to tune a piano for the main hall where she's going to be doing a performance, and both of them end up falling in love. Ruthie is the love interest to Nikki, and previously I saw Havana Rose Liu in the films Mayday and Bottoms, and I think here she has the most to do between all of those movies, and I think that she made for another likable character in this movie. You see what she is doing in terms of her own motivation and trying to go ahead and be someone who is also trying to get under the apprenticeship of another character later on in the movie. So all that together, I thought that was great to have this angle with the whole romance here. Lior Raz plays Yuri, the head of a security company in which Nikki runs into, and seeing him and his crew trying to crack a safe, and he does some shady stuff. He's basically the villain of the movie, if you would. And I thought he was quite intimidating for a lot of the moments that he had in the movie. And then there's another character here played by Jun Reno who becomes pivotal later in the final third of the movie, I would say. But in any sense, the cast and their performances here, I think, are all really standout ones, but especially our lead here in Leo Woodall, really making me want to see what he does next in terms of projects. Now, this film was written or co-written by Daniel Rohrer as one of the two people that penned the script, on top of him being the director here. And like I said, this is his narrative feature film debut, and immediately he has a knack in terms of being very energetic and kinetic, in terms of having the story be down-packed and setting us up very simply. We have Nikki, who has this hearing condition, and I can relate on a different front to him because he is sensitive to loud noises. He was once a promising piano prodigy, but developing this condition made him step away from that and be lucky to be tuning pianos, if anything. Me, I am partially deaf in my left ear, and I use a bone-anchored hearing aid, or a Baha here, and it uses bone conduction for my good ear to give sound here. Oh, you can hear the feedback and all that stuff. So I was able to, there we go, let me put it back there. I was able to relate on that front in terms of how the main character suffers from his hearing, but like I said, it's also a superhero effect or a superpower because he's able to crack safes, but he does it out of necessity because tragedy does strike not too far along into the movie for him to be able to have this motivation to go ahead and go with Yuri's posse, to go ahead and steal a bunch of stuff, crack safes, and he's able to do so in less than 10 minutes, and all this other stuff. The movie basically just goes back and forth and showing the day-to-day routine of Nikki, where by day he tunes pianos, and by night he is cracking safes and making all this extra money so that he's able to go ahead and push forward and get through this whole situation that just fell upon him and a bunch of other stuff like that. It's a story, like I said, that's very similar to something like Baby Driver, but I think that even with this being a tried and true formula, it really helps with the movie just going along with its path and having us try to root for the main character in many ways. What also helps is that this movie on a technical front really is a showcase and one of the standout things that I have seen all year in theaters, and with how the movie is put together. So immediately, given that this is a movie about someone who has a specific hearing condition, the sound design in this film is sensational. I saw this film at a Dolby Cinema at an AMC theater, and it was quite a perfect format to be able to see this film because we are put in the perspective of Nicky basically the entire time, and that he is muffling sound on purpose because he is just so sensitive to noises everywhere, and we're really put into his head, and just the mixing and all around effects that are put in with the auditorium I saw it in connection with what I was seeing on screen. Man, this thing really has some of the best sound I have seen in or heard in a movie in quite a while. The sound designer on this film is Johnny Byrne, who previously won the Oscar for Best Sound for doing all of that for The Zone of Interest, as that was a movie that was key in how fine-tuned it was in being put together with its sound design. And if Tuner doesn't at minimum get an Oscar nomination for Best Sound Design, I don't know. I would be at a loss for words. I'm at a loss for words right now just thinking of if this movie doesn't get at minimum an Oscar nom for Best Sound, because it really is a key factor that had me so engaged with watching this film. The way this movie is expertly edited as well, it reminded me a lot of other movies that are either music-based or also sound-based here. We have films like Sound of Metal, also dealing with a protagonist that has a hearing condition or is starting to lose his hearing, or something like Whiplash. Now, this is a film that is also very in-your-face and stylistic or stylish with how it is trying to give the whole effect and what the main character is going through as well too. Both of these movies won Oscars for their film editing and their sound as well. So you can imagine like how stylish the movies are in terms of their whole design. Also connecting back to Baby Driver, a lot of how this movie is cut together with how fast it is and showing a lot of shots in succession, even some montages, all that together really shows that this is a crime thriller that is tuned, no pun intended, to where all of that really is at the forefront, on top of the story, like I said, which is put together in a way that is simple or basic, but with how it is all helmed in the technical elements and the directing by Daniel Rohr, it really makes a big difference as to what I was seeing all together. The movie runs along at just about an hour and 45 minutes, and it really ramps up after the halfway point, after stuff really goes and hits the fan and just has a lot more going into it that it escalates in terms of the narrative and the plot, especially with what Nikki is going through, everything together. It really had me engaged from beginning to end. The music here, whether it's some popular music choices or even the original score in connection with the sound design altogether, that helped keep the movie going. A lot of piano is played. I actually used to play piano when I was younger. I've since forgotten a lot of it now, but that mixed with like how this movie has a jazzy feel, even though there is some urgency and some big moments and other stuff like that, it helps keep the pace and flow along. And I think that is what helps this movie just be something that I'm really heralding a lot. Not just the fact that I saw this early at a screening, but how this movie feels like it is something that is a showcase for how Daniel Rohr is as a director now of narrative features too. Now, if I were to complain about one thing, this is small or potentially big, depending on how you see it when it comes up in the narrative. It's kind of a spoilery detail, so I'm going to teeter my way around it in terms of mentioning it. But the movie has a certain element with a specific character or characters and action or actions that are taken in the third act. The movie would have ended a lot quicker had this not come up with this character specifically doing an action or being integrated here. Again, I'm not trying to spoil too much here, but the way it is worked around it and followed through on it, I do think it does help, because for a moment the movie stalls and it's like, oh, what's happening? But then it really circumvents and works around it and connects it back to how, by the end, the movie goes in an unpredictable way in the final 10 to 15 minutes or so that I was thinking, wow, this goes in a way that I wasn't expecting completely, even though, as I said, with how this movie is done on the page, it's kind of a similar tried and true formula to where a guy or a protagonist is trying to do the right thing by doing the wrong thing, also bettering themselves while also having a hearing condition, all this other stuff together. I mean, this film coming to play in terms of how it is stand out in terms of its technical elements, that is really a big reason to see this thing on the big screen. And especially if it's going to be in the same type of format that I saw it in at a Dolby Cinema, this thing is more than worth the price of admission to go ahead and see, on top of giving us a thriller that is not a typical thriller in one sense too, to where there's action every minute. It's just the way that it is all edited and cut together that helps make the difference, and that I was engaged in trying to see what was going on with these characters and just wanting to see all of this come out well by the end. And that's what is supposed to be done in terms of seeing a movie and have its effect be put on you in that way. And for that and more, I think that Tuner is a fine-tuned, again, no pun intended, experience that I think now is easily one of my favorite movies of the year thus far. I'm probably going to go out on a limb and say that maybe this is my favorite movie of the year so far. I loved Project Hail Mary and I loved 28 Years Later, The Bone Temple, but also in part to go ahead and get the word and awareness of this movie around, I highly recommend people go out and see this thing because I'm afraid that this is going to be left by the wayside and potentially not get that Best Sound Oscar nomination, because I do think that this is a movie that audiences will go ahead and really take to. I know on the festival circuit this thing has already been getting a bunch of praise, and I hope that when the masses see this thing, I think that it would be one that general audiences will hopefully get word of mouth spreading for, as I am doing right now. If you couldn't already tell, I loved Tuner. Once again, I highly recommend this film, and I'll say for now that yes, this is my favorite movie of 2026 thus far. With all of that being said, my final verdict for Tuner is 4.5 out of 5 stars. Thank you all, as always, for watching. Be sure to like this video, comment on what you thought of Tuner. Social media links in the description. Subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll catch you on the next movie review.